We'll go ahead and get started. We do have one committee member on his way, um, Councilmember Troy Warner, but we do have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and get started. Today is January 12th. I call the Health and Public Safety Committee meeting to order. Clerk Torado, can you please take roll?
Committee Chair Thomas Morgan,
Present.
Committee Vice Chair Warner, Committee Member McBride,
Present.
Committee Member Dr. Davis,
Present.
Committee Member Naskoski,
Present.
Citizen Member Savino Rivera Jr.
Present.
We have 5 members present.
Great, thank you. And then we have one on his way. So today we have one bill to hear, bill number 78-25, amending chapter 14, article 15, section 14-175 to increase the number of public safety officers available at no cost to event organizers. Do we have a presenter?
Good afternoon, Council. Michael Schmidt from the city's legal department with offices on the 6th floor of City Hall. Here to answer questions and present on this really kind of minor change that's been offered in front of you. Essentially, out of the special events ordinance that the city has, we're taking one minor tweak at the request of the police department, who wants to try to be more active in supporting some of the smaller events of the city. They want to offer up an additional 8 hours of service at no charge to an applicant for a special event. As the ordinance is right now, they offer 40 hours, which is essentially about 10 officers for 4 hours that they do as an in-kind service. They want to up that to 48 hours, which would practically be about 12 officers for 4 hours. The officer rates on a per hour at the patrol level, certain events sometimes have different levels of officers attending, but for the vast majority of special events, the price is $77.15 for the overtime fee for the police officers. So you're, 2 officers, 4 hours, you're looking at about $617 of additional fees, some change in there as well. But that's kind of what the financial impact is on the city. The hope is that it provides more opportunities for some of the smaller nonprofits to be able to continue to host their events as different costs are escalating throughout society, and just that there's a willingness from the police department to provide these services in kind. We have a number of special events that are kind of consistent across the board. We have new events that come in, but the estimation from the police department is that there's going to be between 10 and 15 events that really might be able to capitalize of being able to say, like, hey, we were right on the brink of being able to hold our event, but if we have to pay for the extra security services, maybe we wouldn't be able to do that. So it's not a huge number of events that are going to be impacted, but hopefully it will provide a little bit greater opportunity for some different events to come here and some nonprofit events to be able to get together and hold their event here in our city right away. So with that, hopefully I'll be able to answer your questions.
Great, thank you. We'll go to the committee first. Committee members, are there any questions that you have?
I did have one question. Just to clarify, what deems something the classification of tier 2 and tier 3?
We're not necessarily changing that with this revision. Tier 2 and tier 3, I think, speak to the, let me try and pull it up here quickly. They speak to the size of the event. They're both, we've got it defined in our ordinance as is. look at tier two, would be anticipated attendance of 1,000 people or less. So it's still a pretty sizable event. And tier two would be over 1,000. So Sunburst would be like a tier three event, and they charge fees already to participants. So they would still receive 12 or have the opportunity to receive 12 officers. But again, that's not necessarily the type of event that we're trying to attract by doing this change.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee members? So to clarify, you did say these organizations do pay for security.
Yes.
Yeah, It's just upping the number of hours that are available.
Right. So it's security, not so much security for the event. It's security for, if we have to close down roads, if the event is mobile, it's to keep participants safe. If there's races, St. Nick's 6, Sunburst, things of that nature. It's not just for the sake of having security out there to be there.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions from committee members, can we go to council members? Are there questions from any council members? Okay. Then I will open up for public comment. Oh, you do? Okay. Yes, presently.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. You answered the question. I was like, what prompted this change of wanting to have more officers, which that's always a good thing to keep people safe. And then the question of what kind of events would this represent? So.
Mostly this is driven by police. Lieutenant Rorschreibe had been in communication about trying to provide additional services to the community to try to keep up with costs that are rising for events, and did not want to get in a situation where we were losing events over a couple $100 that sometimes with these smaller events can really be meaningful and can give people a pause to do the event. So I know that he worked with the police chief, and this was something that they were really supportive of and wanting to do. And I'm sorry, your second question was about what type of events?
Yeah.
It could be, it doesn't get into, political demonstrations. There's a whole separate ordinance that addresses of that. So we're really talking about civic events, and throughout the state. I mean, I can think of, we've got hot rod events, we've got motorcycle rides, we've got, it's really increased the vibrancy of a whole number of things. But this doesn't address neighborhood block parties. That would be like a tier 1 event that wouldn't need anything like this.
So it's
But-
like these 5K runs
Yep,
that happen,
like some,
Girls
again,
on the Run, others
Yep.
like that.
Absolutely. We've got the the children's triathlon, just stuff like that. Certainly in the summertime, it's quite robust of what's going on.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other questions at this moment, we will go to the public portion of the meeting. I'd like to add, Clerk Tirado, is there anyone in the chambers or online that would like to speak in favor of this bill?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak on the bill.
Okay, I'd just like to ask,
I
is
would
there
like to
anyone?
speak on the bill in opposition.
Okay, and thank you. I would like to ask if there is anyone in the chambers or online who would like to speak against the bill. So, sir, if you could state your name and address, please.
Of the council and fellow citizens. My name is William Elliott Smith, and my last publicly known address is 728 Whitehall Drive, South Bend, Indiana. I come before you today not as an adversary, but as someone deeply committed to protecting our constitutional rights and preserving the values this community stands for. City of South Bend Bill. Number 78-25. An ordinance intended to expand police cost recovery for special event permits. May sound reasonable on its face, but when you look deeper, it reveals a fundamental threat to the First Amendment rights of every resident and visitor in this city. The council received an email this morning with a recent legal commentary titled Permit or Prior Restraint, which is grounded in Supreme Court precedent and decades of constitutional law, explains this issue clearly. When a government conditions the right to speak, assemble, or protest on discretionary permitting and variable fees, it is not regulating, it's restraining. Shuttlesworth v. City of Birmingham and Forsyth County vs. Nationalist Movement teach us that such systems are exactly what the courts have repeatedly struck down. They're called prior restraints, government mechanisms that require permission before speech occurs, rather than addressing real harms afterward. Under Bill number 78-25, expressive speakers, whether they are community advocates, protesters, or grassroots organizers, would be forced to pay for police presence that should be funded by general taxation. This is not simply cost recovery, it is cost imposition on speech. It deters lawful assembly, chills dissent, and places the burden of public safety on those exercising their rights. That's unconstitutional. Moreover, the ordinance vests sweeping discretion in city officials and law enforcement to decide who pays how much, when, and under what terms. Without clear, objective standards, this creates the very unbridled discretion that the Supreme Court has warned leads to arbitrary enforcement, discrimination, and viewpoint bias. This isn't hypothetical. I have prepared, and am prepared to file, litigation in federal court challenging this framework under 42 U.S.C. Section 1983. The complaint seeks declaratory and injunctive relief because Bill number 78-25, as currently drafted and enforced, violates the First and 14th Amendments. Additionally, you've received in your email a proposed corrective ordinance that protects public safety without trampling civil rights. That ordinance is ready for consideration and can serve as a constitutional alternative. We have arrived at this point because the legal concerns documented have not been meaningfully addressed. This is not just about one event, one group, or one speaker. It is about whether South Bend will respect the fundamental liberties guaranteed by the Constitution, or whether it will adopt policies that discourage participation in civic life. Before this issue gets tied up in litigation, I urge this council to reconsider Bill number 78-25, engage with constitutional alternatives, and recognize that governance and civil rights must not be traded for expediency. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your input. Clerk Torado, are there any others online wishing to speak against the bill?
I do not see any additional members of the public wishing to speak in opposition in person or online.
Thank you. This closes the public portion of the meeting, and I will return to committee and council members for any final questions or comments. Committees,
Yes.
committee first, are there any,
Will there be a rebuttal?
there can be, yes,
I would prefer,
if there are any questions. So
no, just a rebuttal.
are there any questions, comments from committee members?
I'd make a
Sure.
comment as an organizer of a 5K for my first time back in October. I greatly appreciate the opportunity of having more of a police presence that was there to be able to support efforts as a community citizen, as an individual who would like to get more involved and potentially increase others to get more involved. To be backed by our local PD is exciting in my opinion.
Thank you. Other questions, comments?
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, the West Side Memorial Day Parade at one point was about Lost. And it took a lot of work to get that back. And the biggest part of that is police presence for safety of the residents. And I appreciated the amount of time they took on their Memorial Day to be there on that route to make sure that nobody did something that was not appropriate or was just, awful, to be quite honest. So I appreciate that. I think this is good. And I think if we give an opportunity for other organizations to capitalize and be able to take advantage of this, it's a good thing for our city. Thank you.
Other final questions or comments? From committee or council members? Online, are we okay? Okay,
Yes, I'm good. I just didn't know, like, Dr. Davis, if someone formally was going to give a rebuttal. But
yes,
that's-
I was collecting everybody's final questions and comments. And so at this point, Michael, if
point of
you
order.
have any, oh,
Typically, the rebuttal is given so I could be able to I can't get my questions without hearing the rebuttal.
thanks, Mr. Davis. I just was merely seeing if there were any other final questions so that he could address all of them together. So
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm open to have you have another comment. Yeah, that's no problem.
No problem.
Michael, would you like to go ahead and answer
Sure.
any questions?
You know, we appreciate the community's input and opinions. We respectfully disagree with the statements that were presented here. We feel that, first of all, the ordinance as a whole is neutral. It is, the fees that are collected are for the actual cost of overtime. There is no revenue generating services here. And again, we don't target controversial events. We have myself attends the special events committee meetings. It is consistent with what other communities are doing around the state and in the country of having committees that review applications, not for content, but for you know, just to make sure that we know what's going on in the city right of way, and what's going to go on and what the resources are needed for those events. So we're confident that this, or not only this change that we're requesting of council this evening, but the special events ordinance as a whole does not violate the First Amendment in any way, fashion, or form. Dr. Davis,
Yes, could you share with us in an email to us? Could you email that information that you just shared? Because he referenced several things that will be in potential litigation. Could you also respond to that in the letter form and respond to the different areas of constitutionality that he talked about? Could you share that? I would feel more comfortable having that be responded to in that kind of a letter, attorney to attorney, to see that from your standpoint, and before I could vote in favor.
Just to make sure that I follow procedures, because I don't do too much in front of council here. You want a letter submitted to Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, let us.
The request was from Mr. Davis for you to send a
Dr. Davis.
communication to Councilmember Davis, sorry, to send a communication to him.
To
Yeah,
you,
the
Dr.
Councilmember
Davis, that
Davis.
you want it just directly to you?
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine. Thank you.
And addressing some of the concerns that were
I'd
brought up.
appreciate that.
Sure. And then just get this to you here before, what's it,
As soon as you can,
7
I
o'clock?
appreciate it. If you
This
can get
evening.
it tonight, that'd be great. I mean, I cannot support it yet until that's done. I mean, that'd be great. The sooner, I know you don't have to give a long thing, but just something.
Sure.
something,
No, I'm
appreciate it.
happy to kind of whip something together. I want to make sure that I'm as responsive as
Thank you.
possible.
I appreciate it.
So, okay, no problem.
Thank you, Michael. If there are no other questions or comments, I'd like to ask the committee for a recommendation.
To send this to the committee of the whole with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Clerk Torado, can you please take roll?
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Nay.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair Warner,
Aye.
Committee Chair Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
Citizen Members Sabino Rivera Jr.
Aye.
I have 5 ayes.
5 ayes. Bill number 78-25 goes to the committee of the whole with a favorable recommendation. This concludes Health and Public Safety.
Thank you.
Okay, we now have the Zoning and Annexation Committee. We'd like for our clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember White. Councilmember Warner. Committee Vice Chair Thomas Morgan.
Present?
Committee Chair Dr. Davis.
Present.
4 members present.
Okay, we have bill number 8025 that's coming to us. And this is a third substitute, amending chapter 21 of the South Bend Municipal Code to make miscellaneous changes for clarification and consistency, simplify development process, and to achieve higher quality of development. And so, Mr. DeVita.
Dr.
We-
Davis, can we get a motion to approve the substitute?
Yes, I'd like to take a motion on the substitute. And
Second.
Councilwoman White, could you turn on your mic?
Third substitute of Bill 80-25.
A second?
Okay, could you take the roll, please? Dr. Torado?
Present?
Councilmember Warner. Vice Chair Thomas Morgan.
Aye.
Committee Chair Dr. Davis.
Aye.
I have 4 ayes.
Thank you. All righty. Now we will hear the substitute of the bill 80-25.
Good afternoon, council members. Michael DeVita, Assistant Director of Planning with City's Community Investment Offices on the 5th floor of this building. Looking at some zoning ordinance changes here. So the current zoning ordinance went into effect January 1st of 2020. So now that we've had about 6 years to work with it, I wanted to bring forward some changes that'll help keep the ordinance relevant. It was an award-winning zoning ordinance development, and we think the ordinance is working really well. We'll talk a little bit more tonight on some of the outcomes. But we, in our experience with it, we really want to make some changes, mostly modest here within these categories. So one is to support the ease of development and flexibility. So ways that we can support further housing development, or in some cases, provide different options to where we can get quality built development outcomes through different means. Reduce the number of unnecessary variances. So we sometimes see coming through the Board of Zoning Appeals, repeated variances where the staff is in favor, there are no objections from neighbors, and that the Board of Zoning Appeals ultimately approves. So if, in a sense of, if no one has an issue with it, then maybe the rule needs to be adjusted a little bit in those cases. Then also modernizing the ordinance. So the world changes, so we think the zoning ordinance should too, to keep up with trends more broadly and what's happening in the development community. And finally, we'll call kind of cleaning up the ordinance. So making sure it's consistent with other parts of city code, and just kind of language changes. We're not really changing the rule, but if there's any kind of confusion or ambiguity around the rule, to make that again easier to use. So I'll turn it over to Mark, who will dive a little bit more into those details.
Thank you, Mike. Mark Del Cerrito, zoning specialist with the City of South Bend, with offices on the 5th floor of this building. So as Mike mentioned, now I'll just kind of go a bit more in depth on each one of these categories of changes that we've identified, and just briefly go over again kind of the main goals and priorities for each of them, and provide a few examples to help as well. So as Mike mentioned, obviously there's a lot of development happening in the city at the moment, and our main goal with a lot of these changes is to just continue refining things to really continue to support that development of housing and other types of projects as well. So there's some changes around building dimensions, our trash enclosure rules, which I'll talk about more in a second. But again, yeah, we think a lot of these changes will help refine things and help that positive trajectory of development continue on more in the future. And related to that, a lot of changes in this section we think will kind of help streamline the development process. So hopefully make it a little quicker for people, potentially a little less costly, but in ways that don't directly compromise the quality of that development. So I think our trash enclosure rules are a great example of that. So for kind of the structure that's built around, larger dumpsters for buildings, we think maybe our current rules are a little restrictive. And so we've kind of overhauled the section, and we think that the changes will still help these enclosures, serve their intended purpose. But for example, if one is in an alley and it's not visible from the street, the rules make it so maybe they won't need landscaping around it, or the materials won't necessarily have to match the building facade like they currently do. Again, we think it's an instance where that won't necessarily compromise in the overall quality of the development, but will help make things easier for developers. And additionally, there's been a number of variances granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals for the width of stacked flats or apartment buildings. And so, that kind of seems to be the general trend of where development is going, wanting a little wider buildings than we currently allow in our code. And generally, staff has been favorable on a lot of those variances. So that's something we're proposing changing as well. Excuse me. Again, as Mike mentioned, there's a lot of things that we're hoping to rules for which there's been a lot of variances requested that we, staff feels we're comfortable with proposing to allow just by right. And these are similarly, we think should help, kind of streamline the development process. If someone has to go for a variance, that can add a bit of time and cost and uncertainty to a project. And so we think allowing for these things just outright should help streamline things. So a great example is the BZA has granted a number of variances for taller fences around schools and daycares for the safety of children when they're playing outside. And so we're proposing upping the allowable maximum fence height with the approval of the zoning administrator. And also currently the code doesn't allow for wall signs on a building. When a business is on the first floor, the sign can't be higher than the second floor. There's been a few variances granted on that. Staff realized we were comfortable making that change. So that's another thing that's in this ordinance as well. In terms of modernizing the ordinance, as Mike mentioned, since 2021, the last time the code was updated, there's been a lot of technology that's changed that we think needs to be acknowledged by the code. There's been some, shifting city priorities and also changing context within neighborhoods across the city as well. And there's also some instances where the code really just kind of, that should say now 2026, but some instances where the code was just simply outdated, and we thought it would be good to update it. So an example of that is in our home occupation section, where it's talking about people running a business out of their home. There's currently in the code some uses that are mentioned that just aren't relevant anymore. One of them is for hat making, for example. And so we also thought just the section needed an overhaul in general. So we've aligned the uses that are mentioned in that section more with the uses that are found throughout the rest of the code, and made a few other changes that we think will, make it easier for people to pursue these home occupations, but still with enough regulations. For example, we added an operating hours requirement, which we do not currently have. Oh, and sorry, I wanted to mention as well in terms of a good example of adapting to changing technologies. We are proposing to exempt electronic vehicle charging stations from some of our rules around accessory structures. So that should hopefully make it easier for people to build these structures and promote this, more sustainable form of transit. And finally, in terms of cleaning up the code, as Mike mentioned, using the code every day, we found some just typos that we wanted to fix. Some instances where language was maybe a bit confusing for developers and the public, but also for staff that we wanted to make a little more clear. And also some parts where we felt that the zoning portion of city code should be better aligned with other parts of city code. So an example there is the forestry team is changing the minimum size that a street tree can be when it's first planted in Chapter 19. And so we also talk about streetscape trees in our sections. We're proposing a change to match their new rule. There's an example there of just like a clerical grammatical change that we've made in terms of how story is spelled. And also we realized that in a pretty standard open sign like the one shown there is actually not currently allowed by the code. And so we just made some small changes to allow that. Additionally, we wanted to call out what we see as some of the biggest changes in this ordinance, and these all revolve around special exceptions. So to start with, for gas stations, currently in our commercial and industrial districts, gas stations are allowed by right, meaning that if someone came to zoning staff tomorrow with a gas station proposal in a commercial industrial district and it was fully zoning compliant, we would have to permit it. Our proposal is to make it so that like it currently is in our neighborhood center and downtown districts, to make gas stations allowable only through a special exception. So with this change, anywhere in the city, if someone wanted to pursue a gas station, the proposal would have to first go through the Board of Zoning Appeals and then get approved by the Common Council. There's a few reasons why we're proposing this change. The first one is just to provide a bit more public review over these types of projects and put a little more control in the hands of council about where these projects are sited. Additionally, from more of a planning standpoint, gas stations can be very hard sites to reuse and kind of repurpose for other uses because of how the canopies are situated, where the pumps have to be in the buildings and everything. And we've been told by some economic consultants that cities currently at kind of a saturation point for gas stations. So if one opens, another one will likely close. And so, thinking about reuse is kind of important there. And so that's another factor, and also because of the emissions that can come from these sites as well, from the pumps, wanting to provide a little more review for those potential environmental impacts, especially if a site is close to residential uses. And then very similarly for beer, wine, and liquor sales, as well as tobacco, hookah, and vaping, we're proposing essentially the same change. So these two uses are currently allowed in the downtown commercial and industrial districts by right, and we're proposing the same change to make them only allowable through a special exception. So again, if someone wanted to pursue either of these anywhere, they would have to get approved by the council, and did that for essentially a lot of the same reasons. Again, just provide a bit more public review and provide a bit more control over where these uses go. We also wanted to note, as you know, a substitute was approved for this bill. There's been actually a few substitutes. We wanted to call out a few major changes that have been made since the first version of this bill was presented. These are all things that were in the original version that have since been taken out. We, after some discussion with some stakeholders and council members, we thought these were things that maybe warranted a little more discussion and thought and research. And so these have been taken out of the current version of the bill. So the first is removing the ADU earned occupancy requirement. This says that if someone has an accessory dwelling unit on their property, they have to live in either the main house or the ADU. That change, we were proposing to take out that requirement. That has been kept in. We were proposing, currently the code only allows for one duplex on any given lot. We were proposing upping that to two. That change has also been taken out. And currently to build a 2-unit dwelling, essentially a duplex in the urban neighborhood 1 district, you have to get a special exception. We're proposing changing that to make it by right. That change has also been taken out. So all three of these things we just wanted to note, they were in the original version. They're no longer in there. And we hope to, again, have a bit more discussion around these and potentially revisit them at a later date. And so that is all we have. Want to note that this does come to the Common Council with a favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission. Ooh, excuse me.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions right now from the committee? Yes, Ms. White.
I do have a couple of questions. The first of which,
Michael.
I think my mic is on, right? It's on, I'm sorry. And with the new modifications with the zoning plans, reduce the number of special exceptions? Because I thought the first one, we had some discussion that we wouldn't be seeing so many special exceptions. But now, based on what you've said in regards to the filling stations and other, businesses, that they, did you say by law that they have to be put in neighborhoods or for the filling stations? Because that's a very touchy issue with some of the council members. So it would become a special exception. Then it would come to the council and we would have to vote it up or vote it down. Is that correct? Did I hear that correct?
That's correct. So there'd be on those particular uses, a chance for more special exceptions. Yep. Given the nature of gas stations, of the potential impacts on like traffic and noise and public safety. And yeah, currently they're allowed by right. So you can just kind of set it up with a permit in the CNI districts. But given those sometimes have close proximity to residential and other sensitive uses, want to take that to the special exception process. So there's a possibility on those particular uses. You may see a few more special exceptions. We did look at kind of what the special exceptions the council has seen, and was it about a third, I believe, were related to that a duplex rule for special exceptions.
And with the gas stations and also with some of the different shops that are placed in various neighborhoods, it brings other activities that the neighbors really are having difficulties with, would not want that to be in their neighborhoods. But again, if it comes before the council as a special exception, we either have to vote it up or vote it down.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And it gives a chance to put a little bit more scrutiny on it, look at what the specific context is for each location, and make more intelligent decisions around those.
And my last question is, have you discussed the changes within the plans with any developers or businesses? Have they have opportunity to have a level of discussion?
Yes.
Point.
Yep. We really spoke with a builder and with a kind of planning consultant who typically works with businesses to do these kind of filings. And I would say a lot of this is just based on our kind of ongoing conversations and work on development projects. And as we've sort of diagnosed issues or things that really should be probably a little bit smoother in the zoning ordinance, and take note of that. So that's really what this reflects.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess just on that point, like a lot of the things where it's trying to reduce the need for variances, those are things where I think we've noticed that, builders and developers want to, do certain things that we're comfortable with, and for things that have been approved as variances and things like that. And so I think maybe while we didn't necessarily directly engage with, people on all of the items, a lot of them come from, noticing that they're things that, developers would like to pursue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we did a survey, I think, too, to look at what are some of the typical variances that tend to get approved repeatedly, and ones that have positive staff recommendations. So again, ones that doesn't seem to be a lot of concern from the BZA, from the staff, or from neighbors of the projects.
Thank you.
I have some
Questions? Go ahead, Councilwoman Thomas Morgan.
I have two questions. The first is the minimum lot size for vehicle sales and rental. Is that an increase or a decrease from prior?
There's no current minimum lot
Okay.
size, so this would establish it. The idea behind is sometimes we see vehicle sales trying to be set up on very small lots. So by the time you apply some of the screening and have access to all of the cars, then it leaves very little space. So it's a standard to say to have a somewhat reasonable sized lot where you don't end up with a bunch of cars all jammed in a lot or kind of spilling over in the street that we see sometimes, to set a standard for what that minimum size lot should be.
Okay, thank you. That seems like a positive development for sure. And then my second question is about temporary signs for non-residential use. I got this question this afternoon and didn't have time to forward it to you, but could you, there's an increase from 24 square feet max to 32. Was there, I guess what was the
Yeah, we
desire to
typically
increase
see.
that? And also, can you define what temporary is?
Yep. But different time period, 60 days.
Yeah, 30 days, but it can be.
Yep. So these tend to be ones for like a special event, or especially for like a construction sign where you have a coming soon, or a financed by whatever company. So it's not unusual to see these as a 4 foot by 8 foot size sign. So rather than being all non-compliant, especially for a temporary basis. We just bump that up to a typical size for those kinds of signs.
Okay, and you said temporary was 30 days or 60?
Yeah.
60?
It's, the kind of the base amount of time is 30 days, but you can renew it for up to a few months. If
Okay.
you'd like, but I believe it's the maximum period it can be up for is 4 months, I want to say.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions?
I, sorry. Yeah.
Pardon me? Yeah, I didn't create any limits. Go ahead. Who else wants to go next? You want to go ahead, Councilwoman Nakowski, and then President, go ahead, just come on down.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Davis. I appreciate that. And I know this is the third substitute, and so I did try to keep up with but I guess the 6-foot fence, that has to do with daycares, correct, in schools only? Okay. Because I've been to those meetings, and there's a lot of meetings about fences, and I've sat through hours of those with one of the, I think it was Father Ryan over their fence. So I'm glad to see that corrected.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm asking about that I don't recall seeing, and maybe I just overlook it, was the curb cuts within 30 foot. And then it talked about the 15-foot shared for that. And I just want to get a little better understanding about that. And then the separate entrance other than the front door. So what that, if you're meaning more than one door, or they can just have the entrance other than the front, and then the standard open signs.
Yeah, I guess I can start off on the open sign portion. We technically, we don't have we have a category in the code for exempt signs, or signs that don't need a sign permit. Within that, we have a window sign section, so that's what we just open signs would fall under. And currently those cannot be illuminated. So, your standard open sign, it's, kind of lit up red and
Right.
blue. That's currently not allowed. And so we just took out the portion where I believe it says can't be illuminated or something like that. So
Okay,
yeah,
good.
that was just the only change there.
Thank
I think, and Mike can add more if you'd like, I think with the curb cut portion that is still in there, and I think the goal was just generally, we try to reduce the number of curb cuts if possible, because they can, get rid of on-street parking and can increase conflict points, with pedestrians going on the sidewalk if cars are coming in, and to kind of maximize the buildable area of a lot. If you have a curb cut in a driveway, it can impact, how large of a building you have. And so I think that was kind of what the main reasoning behind that change. And yeah,
Just to add a little bit more, so this was to limit curb cuts on smaller lots. So if you had a very small lot, essentially your curb cut could be almost the entire width of the lot. And if you had several lots in a row that were that way, like your entire block could be kind of a curb cut. So it's trying to limit again the number of, as a safety thing, the number of conflicts from vehicles crossing the sidewalk, and beyond that, just to not have the kind of aesthetics of having that entire block just kind of be like garage door faces.
And on the in terms of the separate entrance for home occupations, you're saying correct? Yeah, that I think it's essentially so someone that you can't change the front if you're running a say a photography studio out of your home, you can't change the front of your home, but if you would like to put, say, another entrance for that business on the back of your house, for example, that would be allowed with this new change. So nothing could happen on the front to kind of maintain, the residential character of the home from the front. But if, you wanted to put one on the side or on the back, that would be allowed with this change.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood that. Like I said, there was a lot of substitutes. And I did also, if I may, Dr. Davis?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. In reference to the alleys, there was a section in there that if there is entryway to an alley, that would be preferred I believe it was for like established parking. So does that, I guess the reason I ask about that is if you have someone who's coming in and wants to build and they do want a garage, and the size of that lot is, say, 40 foot, that wouldn't prohibit them from putting in a driveway with a garage. If it's less than that, though, what you're saying is it does have to be for the rear, right? If there is access there. So if there isn't access there, then is there a way for that? Do you see what I'm saying? If someone wanted
Yeah.
to put an extra.
Orange overall is structured, if there's alley available, then that's the preference for where that access should come from. So we might have a garage accessed directly from the alley. Obviously, not all lots have alley access. So if you got so yeah, you can just do a driveway from the front if there's not an alley access, if the lot's bigger. If it's smaller, either there's no driveway or you're, working through a different condition, again, like a shared driveway or an access easement where you're coming across another property to access parking or a garage.
So that would still be permitted to put in that curb cut there, like Diamond Avenue has a lot of those. I don't know if those are all necessarily 40-foot frontages, but on a 30-foot front, if they have the ability to put a garage further back on their property, this wouldn't prohibit them from doing that in that case.
It would not change the existing
Okay.
rules.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was understanding it properly. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. President Lee?
Yes, thank you for these changes, especially the ones with the gas stations, because we have seen gas stations popping up in all facets of our neighborhood. And so thank you for allowing us to have it to come before the council. And then also the ADU being owner occupied. Can you talk more about that? Originally, the proposal was to just allow ADUs to be built and the owner didn't have to live there. Can you tell us, some of the reasons of it being owner occupied and the reason why you decided to do that? Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The existing rule is that the owner must live in one of the units, either in the primary house or in the accessory dwelling unit. With the idea, there's obviously someone interested and responsible on that property, and it's kind of seen as a kind of first or safe step into the ADUs by having that presence there. In some places, look at that's a little bit of a kind of break on the production of ADUs or more housing units. But we understand there's some concerns around ADUs and how that interfaces with short-term rentals that we wanted to maybe put together in a bigger package. So yeah, at this time, we're not proposing any changes to that rule.
And my last question is the auto repair places that they could only have cars there for 14 days, changed from 30 days, correct?
Yes, within the that just didn't see. Yeah, it's every district 5, but it only changed maybe one district. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just to shorten that period to keep those looking clean. We thought that was a reasonable time period of 14 days. And I think that may align with neighborhood service enforcement standards as well.
Okay. And we'll be enforcing that, correct?
Yes, between neighborhood services and our zoning team.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay.
Chair Dr. Davis, we have Councilmember McBride online wishing to speak.
I'm at peace. Go for it.
Thank you. I guess my question is more probably geared towards the president of the council. I do thank you for the presentation and all the hard work, but I know that we've had council, we're currently also have been working on quality of life ordinances. And I just would like to continue to see the council more involved on the front end and with the ordinances as well, at least having input as we have to approve the ordinances, because I know we have a lot of questions and our constituents got a lot of concerns that I think it would be a vital piece to have some input from the council. So I don't know if that's probably not a question. If it is, it's to the president. If not, it's a comment that I'm asking for us to be a little bit more involved on that process. It may not be with this ordinance, but I know we're taking a look at various ordinances. And I'll yield. Thank you.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to comment or did we go to, you okay? Oh. Okay, Councilman Warner, any comments, anything? Anybody else? Any other thought that came to you?
I do have a
ahead.
comment, but do you want to go to?
No,
that
I'm okay right now.
afterwards,
Then
or-
we go
okay.
back. We
I just,
want to make sure we have us. We're gonna come back.
It just a comment. I want to thank you for the change on the gas and fuel and changing that from by right to special exception. I think that those are, I think it's really important for council to be able to have eyes on those. And it allows additional input from residents and neighbors and other businesses. And so not just for fuel and gas, but in general, I think it's a good idea for council to have more eyes on some zoning changes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Now we will go to the public. Clerk Torado, is there anybody in the chambers or online wishing to speak in favor?
At this time, I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor.
Thank you. We will go to opposition. Anybody in the public would like to speak in opposition, whether they're in the chambers or online?
At this time, I do not see any individuals in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll close our public hearing for this committee. I shared this in our meeting before. We were dealing with this, and you well are aware that it's taken some time for us to come back, and we have all of these. And so when do you anticipate, will it be on a regular annual basis? Because the concerns that I have, I got a phone call earlier today, is that all of these are happening at one time, and it's hard sometimes for people to decipher this or that. And so this is a conglomerate of a lot of different changes, whether they be good or bad. It's just a lot. And so is there could you put on record a projected time that we would have an annual conversation regarding this? Go ahead.
Yeah, this ordinance probably got a bit bigger than we intended, but now that we had a staff one available to get this done. But I think the intention is for probably smaller, more regular ones, probably every 6 months to a year to bring smaller updates to the council.
And you had talked about, and now in our area plan, you had some clarification on this, that there was a second set of information that you're going to probably bring back, that this was, when you first brought this, you deemed this as the first round, and then you said there would be a second round.
Yeah.
Could you clarify that again?
This one was a bit of a grab bag of miscellaneous provisions through the ordinance, but I think we intend to bring forward ones that are probably a little bit more topical, like on say focusing on signs, focusing on uses, those sort of things.
And the second round would be, could you describe that?
Yep. Well, we're working on a couple right now, so I don't have a definitive time frame, but I think in the next few months you should see the next round.
Okay. All righty. Any final thoughts, comments before we make it? If not, then we can, I'm all tongue-tied. Open to a recommendation. from
I'd
the
like to
committee.
move that we send Bill 80-25 to the committee of the whole with a favorable recommendation.
Okay, do we have a second? Second, okay. Clerk Torado, could you please take the vote?
Committee Member White.
Aye.
Committee Member Warner. Committee Vice Chair Thomas Morgan.
Aye.
Committee Chair Dr. Davis.
Aye,
4 ayes.
thank you. At this time, we will reach out before we go. We'll have our organizational committee meeting at our next meeting, and we will hopefully will have our selection of our citizen members by then too. Thank you, and we are adjourned.